Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Sarah Wong. Our top stories tonight. COVID forces Carrie Lam to postpone the chief executive election. New COVID cases dropped to 3,600, but thousands of test samples await processing. And public hospitals scramble to move patients indoors before a cold wave hits. The chief executive election scheduled for next month has been postponed because of COVID. Incumbent Carrie Lam invoked emergency powers for the move. Johanna Chen reports.
Carrie Lam called a press conference this evening to drop a bombshell. The chief executive election scheduled for March 27th has been pushed back to May 8th. Nominations, which were due to open on Sunday, have been moved to April 3rd to 16th. Lam, the incumbent, used emergency powers to make the changes, the same powers that were used to delay the Legislative Council elections in 2020. When Hong Kong reached a new high of 149 infections in the third COVID wave. Lam noted currently there are thousands of cases, posing health risks for the election. She added it is not fair and open if candidates cannot canvass due to COVID restrictions. There could be another extension if COVID worsens, but not after June 30th.
That's all we could do because the current term government could not do anything that goes beyond our term. So options like extending the term of the chief executive or postponing the CE election to after 30th of June are not decisions that we could take. They could only be made by the Central People's Government.
Lam added that the SAR will work hard to fight COVID with the support of the mainland. This came after Beijing's liaison office held a virtual meeting with political and business representatives. Director Luo Huining said the most important factor is that people must unite against the virus with trust. He added mainland authorities are willing to give their full support to the SAR to battle COVID. During the meeting, property moguls pledged to provide resources, including hotel rooms, for the cause. Henderson Land Development offered sites for temporary hospitals, while New World Development said it is willing to turn the Convention and Exhibition Center into a testing hub. Johanna Chan, HKIBC.
Hong Kong reported around 3,600 new COVID cases today, which is significantly lower than yesterday's figure. But health authorities say that's only because of a backlog in private testing clinics. Wong reports.
While the city's daily tally dropped by almost half from yesterday to 3,627 local infections, health authorities insist it's not a sign of improvement. With over 7,500 preliminary positive cases, Chuang Shuk-kwan from the Center for Health Protection said many private laboratories have not been able to send their test samples to the government fast enough, causing a backlog. She said staff are now working as quickly as possible to clear those out. There were 10 more COVID-related deaths in the past 24 hours, with around a dozen more people in critical condition. Elderly people continue to be a vulnerable group in the current fifth wave. The hospital authorities' Sarah Ho said many of those arriving in hospitals are residents of homes for the elderly, and they tend to be in pretty bad shape. She urged people to stay away from hospitals if they can help it, so staff can concentrate on caring for the avalanche of COVID patients. She also urged homes for the elderly to take their residents back once they have been approved for hospital discharge.
Actually, we have our outreach team, that is the CGET team, will try to visit and support the discharged OH home residents. And at the same time, we understand most of these patients have underlying chronic disease. And now we also understand or liaise with the worker in there. What are their problems and how can we support them?
Authorities also said hospitals have abundant supplies and people do not need to donate anymore. But they lack manpower, and private doctors have been urged to help out. Wong, HKIBC.
Health officials are struggling to find space indoors for COVID patients stuck outside public hospitals. Many public hospitals are already overcrowded, but there are health fears ahead of a cold spell. Macy Mock reports.
Members of the public have been moved by pictures like these outside the Caritas Medical Center in Shamsherpo this morning. The scores of patients enduring the cold on hospital beds outdoors included elderly people huddled under blankets and a child tucked under his mother's arm. Heaters were placed inside tents to provide some warmth. With a cold spell expected this weekend, there was growing concern about the health of patients if they were unable to find places in public hospitals already stretched beyond capacity. This afternoon, health officials pledged to move all patients within hours.
We'll try our best to mobilize all internal area, including some staff area, corridor, some general outpatient clinic area, to move or to arrange those waiting outside the A&E pending for admissions patients to move to the indoor area. So this is our target to have it done by tonight.
No figures were given, but she admitted that the task is difficult as hospitals are already overcrowded. The occupancy rates of many hospitals are above full capacity. Ho said the authorities are concerned that the cold weather in the days ahead will affect patients. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
Chief Executive Carrie Lam said the government is looking to impose stricter measures, which could include citywide tests.
One of the measures that we are planning very seriously, is a mandatory universal testing. So we will test everyone in Hong Kong. But mandatory testing and a complete city lockdown may not need to go hand in hand. It depends on the actual situation. In our case, having examined the unique situation in Hong Kong, we probably will just go for universal testing of everyone, but testing more times.
Anthony Wu, who chairs the center spearheading Hong Kong's testing schemes, says a manpower boost is needed to speed up the process.
Let's say the top few labs, we employ, let's say, 5,000 lab technicians. We were doing 50,000 a day 2 years ago, and now we're doing 300,000-400,000 a day. So really, we are working 7-11, 24 hours. And then you cannot just increase the people, the capacity by just doubling it, because you only have a finite number of lab technicians, and that is where we need help from the central government in sending more lab technicians to help us.
The former hospital authority chairman also urged the government to increase quarantine capacity and focus on highly vulnerable groups. You can watch the full interview on Talk the Walk on HKIBC tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. 4 of the mainland's top epidemiologists began their first full day in Hong Kong, working with local authorities to analyze the outbreak. Kang Ming, the director of the Guangdong Provincial Center for Disease Control and Prevention, led the team which went to government headquarters in Tamar this morning. They held talks with officials from the Food and Health Bureau, the Center for Health Protection, and the Hospital Authority. Another group of mainland specialists visited the mobile Fire Eye Laboratory that began operating this week at the Ma On Shan Sports Center. They arrived from Guangdong yesterday, along with 2 mobile nucleic acid testing trucks and a refrigerator truck. Ambulance paramedics are among the unsung heroes as Hong Kong fights the 5th COVID wave. Many work 20-hour shifts as they ferry infected people to hospital. Joanna Ho reports.
Ambulance paramedics have come under severe strain in recent weeks as the COVID caseload surged. They are the ones who send infected people to hospitals and isolation facilities. And after each trip, they must sterilize their ambulance. Superintendent Tong Si Ho said this slows down their work and lowers efficiency. This senior fireman from Shatin Station said he had to work over 21 hours non-stop and had no time for a warm meal. Hong Kong's 400 ambulances have struggled to cope with surging demand in the fifth COVID wave. To help ease the pressure, the authorities have rented 40 coaches to ferry infected people to isolation facilities. Medics on board the coaches will tend to the patients' needs. Some ambulance crew are worried that they might get infected in the line of duty. They also have to attend to non-COVID emergencies, and in such cases, they do not wear protective gear. But some people who called for help did not reveal that they tested positive, and this risked exposing ambulance crew to the virus. The medics recalled a heart-rending case when 6 members of a family in Tuen Mun were confirmed with COVID. But that particular ambulance was under orders on that occasion to carry only one person. The father pleaded that his seriously ill 5-year-old son be taken first. Medics said people with mild symptoms should stay at home to free up ambulances to send more serious cases to hospital. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
And coming up after the break. The Dutch Prime Minister apologizes for excessive violence in Indonesia in the 1940s. And a kindergarten in eastern Ukraine is attacked as Russia and the United States lock horns at the United Nations.